Hello, everyone. Welcome to C-Level Talk, where we interview experts and C-level executives from various industries. And today we have Mr. Ben Smalley, who is the CEO of a rural hospital in southern Idaho, which is part of Intermountain Healthcare, which is based in Salt Lake City. So welcome, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for the invite today, Reddy.
Okay, great. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization and your role and everything about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Intermountain Healthcare was started in 1975 when the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints turned all the assets of 15 hospitals over to the community. And Intermountain takes care of patients all along Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Nevada, and Kansas. There's about 60,000 employees and 33 hospitals, including a virtual one. And so my hospital is located in southern Idaho. It's called Cassia Regional Hospital. I've been here about 5 years. I've been working in healthcare a little over 10 years. I got a graduate degree from University of Minnesota. I got a master's in healthcare administration and business administration, and I have a bachelor's degree from Brigham Young University.
Okay, that's great. And when you said that you are a CEO of, are you the CEO of the local hospital, or are you the CEO of the whole group, Intermountain Healthcare Group?
Oh, yeah, just my local hospital.
Okay, great. That's great. And what do you think is your main quality that made you the CEO? Like, how did you differentiate yourself from everybody else?
You know, I think like a lot of things, there's always more than one thing, right? Sometimes we like to distill things down to one simple thing. What was the one thing that made you do this or do that? And I'd say that I wouldn't limit it to just one thing that would help someone become the CEO of really any organization. I would expand it to a few key fundamentals. One is obviously people skills, your ability to build relationships. That's what business is all about. And so I think my ability to work with others and find solutions has been critically important. A second one that I think sometimes we as leaders can lack a little bit, and that is the discipline to execute and follow through on what we say we will do. And so my ability to have people trust me, that there's integrity, that when Ben says he's going to do something, it's going to get done, and I can count on that. I think that's been another quality that I try really hard to capitalize on. And then maybe a third one that I think is important is I don't shy away from having difficult conversations. When there's challenging situations or there's performance gaps or someone's upset about something or things aren't going well, I try to run towards those conversations and resolve them in a thoughtful manner and in a timely manner. Whereas sometimes our tendency as leaders may be to shy away from those things because they can be uncomfortable. And I think that can be a big mistake. So those are probably the three big things that come to mind that I think have been key in being able to be entrusted to lead a hospital.
Yeah, I mean, those are some really important aspects that you touched upon. Like, especially, I also struggle. I personally struggle with trying to do what I say I would do. And it becomes really difficult. At the same time, if I don't do it, then I'm gonna look bad in front of my team. So I try to keep up. I really strive hard to keep up. And what piece of advice would you give to students or business professionals who need to be successful in their life, in their careers?
So, Reddy, just generic advice on how to help students as they're jumping into careers. What can they do to be successful?
Not really. I mean, this is geared primarily towards entrepreneurs. Like I would say,
Oh, I thought I heard you say
budding entrepreneurs. But since you,
I'm sorry, I
okay,
thought I heard you say students. So you just mean early careerists who want to be successful?
right, exactly. So let me ask this question again. Uh, so during our initial conversation, you were saying you're not an entrepreneur, but you are a CEO. But you're a CEO of your company, right? So,
Right.
like, what piece of advice would you give people to be successful, to become a role model for others, to become to grow to a level like a CEO?
Hmm. Yeah. So one piece of advice that comes to mind is the importance of being able to organize your work and be able to focus on what is most important in any given moment. And one really practical tool that I would offer that I'm sure many listening is already familiar with is there's an author named David Allen who wrote a book called Getting Things Done. And that book, when I read it during graduate school, really changed my life and my approach to how I accomplish my work. The subtitle of Mr. Allen's book is The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. And the concept behind that book is he creates some really great ideas on how you can organize your projects and your work and keep track of them in a system that allows you to trust that system to make sure that you don't forget work that is important. So instead of feeling like you have to always remember this stuff in your head, which will lead to most definitely you forgetting things and not following up on things, but it also makes it so that when you're going throughout your day and you happen to have 30 minutes of your time free up, we all ask ourselves, so what am I going to do with that 30 minutes? And what's the most important thing? And sometimes we have so many things to do that we kind of run into this paralysis, right? And we don't
Yeah.
focus on the most important thing. Or one of the things that David Allen talks about that has changed my life is he distinguishes the difference between a project and a task. And if your task list is full of projects, you're going to avoid doing them because it requires you to figure out what the actual next step is with a given project. And we could go into more detail on that if you'd like, but in summary, I'd say that if you really want to be successful, a big piece of what you want to accomplish in life is being able to have a system where you're organized and you can trust your system that you've got captured all the work you need to do, and that you can execute and meet deadlines that either you set for yourself as an entrepreneur or that your boss or that you may set for other people as a leader.
Okay, that's great. That's a good piece of advice. And what is the most important part of your work day? Like, is there any part of your day that drives the rest of your day?
Yeah, so well, it probably starts the day before for me. So I try hard to plan the next day in advance, and that will include tasks that I know need to get done that day. And then I'm a big fan of continuous improvement or lean, things like that. And one of the tools that I use is referred to as leader standard work, which is kind of set things that you decide if you want to have a successful day. These are the things that you've defined before your day starts that you need to accomplish on a given daily basis. And so executing on that by having the plan in place the day before is what I found to usually help me have a more productive day. Obviously, things get in the way all the time, right? Things blow up, you have fires that you need to deal with, and that's fine. But that's usually the exception rather than the rule, right? But if I casually walk into my day, I don't have my task list ready. I don't have what I want to accomplish set out before me, then it's really easy to just gravitate towards, well, I guess I'll just check some emails or doing things that don't require a lot of brain power, but are, easy wins, easy things to do. And that's when we can get to the end of the day and feel like, wow, I did a lot of stuff, but I didn't really accomplish very much. And that's
Right.
because we tended to procrastinate those things that may have been harder to do, but were the most important things to do. So I'd say it kind of starts the day before for me to really make that day go well.
Okay, that's great. And you were touching upon David Allen's book, Getting Things Done. Like, do you have any other good recommendations, like any other good books that you would recommend everybody to read?
Yes, I have a lot, but a few are real staples for me. Another one that I think is crucial for everyone to read if you're in a leadership position. Well, actually, even if you're not, even just managing family dynamics, relationships. There's a book called Crucial Accountability. I think most people are familiar with the book Crucial Conversations. That's written by Joseph Grenny and Alan Switzer and several. There's 6 or 7 authors, all wonderful authors. And so everyone's familiar with Crucial Conversations mostly, but they wrote another book called Crucial Accountability. And what it does is it teaches you skills on when someone breaks their promise or there's poor performance. They talk about there being a gap between your expectations and the performance that you're seeing. And when there's a gap, what do you do about it? And so that book is a really wonderful one that I recommend to every leader that you go through because we encounter that all of our lives. And most of the time we handle it really poorly. Well, not most of the time, maybe a lot of the time we handle that poorly when we are brave enough to speak up. Most of the time when we see that gap, again, we get nervous to have a conversation about that. And so we shy away from it. And then as the book talks about, eventually it kind of bubbles up and you blow up and you either act it out or you remain silent. So that would be a book that I'd recommend. Another, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just said, go ahead.
Okay. So another one that I think is pretty foundational is a book by Stephen M.R. Covey. He's Stephen Covey's son, who I is obviously famous. But Stephen M.R. Covey wrote a book called The Speed of Trust. And that one teaches you fundamentally, and especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to get people to trust you, right? You want them to be willing to do business with you. And in order to do that, you've got to build trust. Well, this book goes through the components of what makes up trust. And brief summary, it's 2 things. It's your character, who you are as a person, and then your competence, your ability to deliver results. And we can all think of people who are wonderful people, but they can't necessarily deliver results. Or on the other side, there's people who can deliver great results, but as a person, their character, their integrity, their intent, maybe not so great. And so if you have one but not the other, it's really difficult to achieve trust, especially on a longitudinal basis. And so that's another book that I would strongly encourage folks to consider.
Okay, perfect. That's great. So, what is the most challenging moment you had in your career as a CEO, and how did you deal with it?
I'm thinking about that one. That's a deep question, Reddy. The most,
or you can tell me any other challenging scenario. Just to give you a hint, maybe COVID could be one of them. But if you had anything more challenging, definitely we'd like to hear about that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, my guess is people are sick of hearing about COVID and the pandemic, and so maybe I'll pass on that one today. But man, I've had several challenging moments, and I guess one that comes to mind is as a senior leader with a team. One of the biggest challenges, I was new to a hospital several years ago, and at this hospital, it became apparent that one of the senior leaders on my team, who I'd inherited, I joined that team, and this existing person on my team was clearly not effective in her role, right? And so I knew that I needed to do something about that. But that is a really difficult thing to do for some people. And for me, it's challenging to have a difficult conversation about someone's poor performance. And so I approach those conversations with humanity and hopefully with 2 things in mind. When I have a difficult moment like that, I think about 2 things. What will best serve the mission of my organization, and what will be best for that person? Because if I can approach a difficult conversation with that person knowing that I need to serve the mission and I want to do what's in their best interest, then I won't shy away from talking to them about their performance gaps. Because if they're not performing well, then our organization is not performing optimally. And so I'm being selfish and not serving the mission if I don't talk to her about this issue. And two, if she's underperforming, then she is not reaching her potential or in a position where she can do the most good and reach her personal potential. And so that was a really difficult moment. We talked through that, and actually she took that conversation well. We set up resources and efforts to try and help her improve. And ultimately, she found that the role she was in was not the best fit for her. And she found something else outside the organization. And then I was able to recruit a different leader into that role. And if you think about the best things I can do for my hospital, having effective leaders supporting and leading the hospital is one of the biggest things that I can do. And I would say that as leaders, when we shy away from having those conversations, when we shy away from those difficult moments, then we're being selfish and we're not performing our duties properly.
That's great. I mean, using the word selfish when you're not doing something, that's a different perspective altogether. I would say as like not being, I would have thought of like not being able to, not having the courage to approach it. But when you look at it as being selfish, then you would definitely act on it.
Yeah,
I
and I
like
don't
that
mean to be
approach.
harsh about it, but it's because we tend to think, well, how am I going to feel, or I'm going to feel uncomfortable, or I don't know how to do this, and I don't want to invest the time to figure out how to have this conversation, or all those things. Those are kind of selfish thoughts, right? We're thinking of reasons why we shouldn't have to do something hard.
Right. And how do you define success? In your personal life at the same time, like how do you define a successful person, like when it's somebody else?
The success to me means, from there's lots of different angles, right? For me personally, success means that I am doing everything in my power to reach my potential based on how I value who I want to be as a person. So I'm a very religious person. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Sometimes it used to be called the Mormon Church by some. And so my goal is to be as much like Jesus Christ as I can. And so my measure of success is every day, am I becoming more like this person who I admire in my life? And if I'm making choices that bring me closer in alignment with those things that I value and who I want to become, then I am achieving success, right? And so
Right.
if I focus on my values first and what's important to me and what's meaningful to me, then that can be a definition of success, right? But it also is tied in very closely with what it means to achieve real happiness, right? So sometimes our focus on success is, well, I want to be a billionaire and I want to be famous, right? So that may be your definition of success, but in my opinion, that will bring you pure joy. What brings joy is relationships and family and helping others and doing good and making a difference and fulfilling your mission. And I think humanity has found that long term, those are the things that really bring happiness, and that is success, right? If we're successful and unhappy, then why would you care about saying that you were successful in making $1 billion and then you come to find out, man, this big house and this fancy car and this TV sitting here all by myself didn't bring me happiness. So was I successful? Actually, probably not really in terms of the big definition of life success.
Right. That's true with most of the people, actually. Yeah. And what do you attribute? What do you most attribute your success to? Which quality of yours?
I would say trying to center my life around those things that I value and taking an approach where I'm always trying to improve myself. There's a lot of thought out there that, hey, if you've got weaknesses, you can't really fix them, so don't, and just enjoy your strengths. and I can see that school of thought, and there's certainly things that I think are true about that, right? Like I enjoy singing, but I'm not good at singing. I've taken singing lessons, and I get that no matter how hard I try, I am not going to become a wonderful singer. I just don't think I have that in me, right? And so to focus on that and try and make that, my greatest strength doesn't make sense. But I think sometimes we forget, or we miss out on the opportunity to improve ourselves and become the best version of ourselves. And so I'd say a focus on that, along with staying true to my values, would be what's helped me reach what I'm hoping is success in my life.
Okay, that's good. And if you had a chance to start your career all over again, like what would you do differently?
I've throughout my career, I've had wonderful mentors and people who have supported me and helped me along the way. And so one thing that I think is important is that we're always giving back and helping others, helping the next generation, helping those who are coming before us. And I've tried to do that. I get interns and students asking me questions a lot about, hey, how can I be successful and get to a position someday? And so I wrote a free book, an Apple iBook called The Outstanding Intern. And it's
Okay.
just a free book to try and help students who want to get internships and be successful during their internships and things like that. And so giving back. But I probably could have started that much earlier on in my career to try and do my part to help those who are coming after me.
Okay, perfect. That's great. And one final question is like, if you were sitting down with your successor, like whoever is gonna be the next CEO, what are the key points you would tell them, like to run this hospital successfully?
Hmm. Well, a lot of the things that we've talked about today, obviously, but I'd probably also encourage that person, say, most things that feel like they're urgent in the moment aren't actually urgent.
Hmm.
Don't feel pressured to make a decision immediately when people try and pressure you, because most of the time, sleeping on a decision for 24 hours will lead you to a better decision. I feel strongly about what you hear a lot, which is make sure that you don't put anything emotional, controversial, or full of frustration into an email. Take the time to meet with people in person for those discussions. And remember that at the end of the day, it's people who get things done, and it's people who matter. And that's what we're in. We're in the people business and taking care of people. And if we take care of our people, everything else tends to work itself out.
Yeah, that's a very valuable suggestion. And so thank you very much for all the information you gave. And before we end the session, like, would you like to give any piece of advice to our people?
Yeah. Yeah. So, final parting advice to a budding entrepreneur or someone who's looking for success in life. I guess I would just encourage you to please take the time before you get gung ho in building up your career to think about the most precious resource you have, which is your time, and ask yourself long term, how do you want to spend your time, and what do you think will bring you the greatest joy? I think I see too many people who spend their 20s and their 30s trying to build their empire and make their money, and then they find that they missed out on getting married and having children and having loved ones around you to enjoy your success with together. And so please make family and relationships and other aspects of your life a priority, and not let this desire to be successful in business stamp out the other things that are going to be so important to you. You don't want to be in your 40s and have a whole bunch of money and no one to enjoy it with, because that will not bring happiness. And ultimately, I hope that everyone can be productive and find joy and happiness.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Ben. That is a very valuable suggestion. And it's been great having you as a guest. You've shared a lot of valuable information, and I thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good to meet you, Reddy. Thanks for inviting
Thank,
me.
thank you, Ben. Bye bye.
Bye.